sat in the car, my fingers trembling on the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the phone screen. The 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test stood out clearly, as if to confirm that this was not a dream. 4 years of waiting, 4 years of hope followed by disappointment, and finally the miracle had arrived. My heart raced, joy surged through me, and I couldn't stop smiling. I imagined Noah's face when he saw the picture, his sparkling blue eyes lighting up with happiness. The traffic light turned green, and I gently pressed the gas pedal. The car glided smoothly down the familiar road, the soft afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows, making everything appear more vibrant. The song playing on the radio was a classic love ballad, with a gentle melody about eternal love. Normally, I would find it a bit cheesy, but today, everything felt perfect. Noah's going to be so happy, I whispered to myself, imagining him hugging me tightly and whispering sweet words into my ear. Noah had always longed for a child, mentioning it since the early days of our marriage. His mother, Margaret, also never missed a chance to ask about grandchildren at every family gathering. All those pressures had once made me anxious, but now, every heavy feeling had melted away, leaving only pure joy. A blinding light flashed at the corner of my eye. Before I could realize what was happening, a loud crash echoed, and everything spun around. My world distorted. Sounds of metal clashing, glass shattering, and a piercing scream filled my mind. My body was tossed around, everything became a blur. Amidst the chaos, only one thought emerged in my mind. Protect the phone. Noah has to see the picture. When everything finally stopped spinning, I could no longer feel my face. Warm liquid trickled down my neck, and a distant voice screamed, "Oh my God! I'm sorry! I'm so sorry!" The voice echoed like it came from another world, disconnected from me. A hand touched me. A soothing voice spoke. "Can you hear me? Don't move, we're going to get you out." I tried to open my mouth, to say something about the baby, but my lips felt frozen. Pain and coldness engulfed me. The last thing I remembered was someone's hand holding mine, gentle yet full of promise. Everything will be okay. But they lied. When I woke up, the blinding white light of the hospital pierced my eyes. Everything was hazy except for the dull ache spreading throughout my body. I blinked a few times and finally recognized Noah's familiar figure. He sat on the chair next to my bed, head bowed, hands clutching a crumpled tissue. His messy brown hair, wrinkled clothes, and dark circles under his eyes said it all. He had been here for a long time. I tried to lift my arm, but it felt as heavy as lead. Every movement demanded twice the usual effort. "Noah," I called out softly, my voice barely more than a whisper. He jolted awake, his eyes meeting mine. In that brief moment I saw something in his gaze, confusion, a nameless fear. But then he smiled, a smile that never reached his eyes. "You're awake," he said, his voice forcefully gentle. "You had me so worried." I wanted to smile back, but my face no longer felt like my own. A numbness spread from my cheek to my chin as if my skin had been replaced by a foreign mask. A bad feeling crept in, but I only had the strength to ask the one question my heart was screaming. "The baby?" Noah's hand tightened around mine, but there was no comfort in his grip. "I'm so sorry, Emily. The doctors did everything they could." His voice trembled, not from sadness, but from something else. A cold sensation ran down my spine, as if the floor beneath me had disappeared, leaving me falling endlessly into nothingness. I closed my eyes, not wanting to see the world anymore. The sounds around me became muffled, as if smothered by a thick fog. The door opened and a familiar scent filled my nose, the sweet jasmine perfume Margaret always wore. "Noah, the doctor wants to talk to you," Margaret said softly, but her voice carried urgency. "About the reconstruction options." "I'll be right out," Noah replied quickly, releasing my hand. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to still be unconscious. Their voices faded as Noah stepped outside, but fragments of their conversation slipped through the slightly open door. "She'll need a lot of surgeries," Noah said, his voice low and heavy. "Her face, Mom. I don't know if I should." "Don't worry, sweetheart," Margaret interrupted, her voice gentle, but layered with a deeper meaning. "We'll figure it out, step by step. The important thing is your image, your career. Everything else can be managed." Hot tears rolled down my cheeks, soaking through the thick bandages. Those tears seemed to dissolve the last remnants of hope I had left. They stood out there, discussing me as if I were just a project to fix, a problem to solve. I realized I had not only lost the baby I had been waiting for, but also the husband I once trusted, my self-confidence and my hope for a happy future. In that cold, sterile hospital room, I felt something inside me shatter. The old Audrey, the loving wife, the hopeful mother-to-be, the woman who always saw life through optimistic eyes, had begun to fade away. In her place, a new version of me was emerging, colder, stronger, but also filled with deep pain. And I knew from that moment on my life would never be the same again. When I returned home, everything looked the same but nothing felt like before. The cozy little house in the suburbs that Noah and I had decorated together now felt cold and unfamiliar. The paintings on the walls, the small decorative items I had carefully chosen one by one, all seemed empty, as if the soul of the house had vanished along with my dreams. "Noah, are you sure you want me to stay in the living room?" I asked, my voice hoarse after the long days in the hospital. He avoided my gaze, clumsily dragging my suitcase into the living room. "The doctor said you shouldn't be climbing stairs yet, it would be better if you stayed here for a while," he explained. But his tone lacked the warmth it once had. I stood in the middle of the living room, feeling like an unwelcome guest. The sofa bed was neatly made with white sheets, everything was tidy but unfamiliar. My personal belongings had been arranged by Noah, from the vanity to the closet, all moved down here. I looked at the small mirror on the table, its face turned to the wall, as if I wasn't allowed to see myself in it. "Do you need anything?" Noah stood at the door, phone still in hand, his eyes barely resting on me for a few seconds. "I have a few calls to make." "I'm fine," I whispered, even though my heart clenched painfully. I knew the truth. He didn't want to see me. He didn't want to face me. With this face, with this pain, I felt like a stain, something imperfect in his otherwise smooth life. A few days later, Margaret, Noah's mother, came to visit. She brought homemade food and a suitcase full of books about recovery after accidents. She entered the house as if it were her own, brushing past me with a polite smile, and immediately started organizing everything. "Have you been taking your medication on time?" she asked, but her eyes were scanning the room, her hands deftly folding the blanket on the sofa. "Yes," I replied, trying not to show my discomfort. "Noah said the doctor mentioned some cosmetic surgery options," she continued, her voice attempting to sound casual. "Have you thought about it yet?" I didn't answer immediately, just stared at my hands. My fingers still bore traces of bruises, but at least they were still intact. I knew what Margaret wanted. She always cared about appearances, about how her family was perceived from the outside. I used to think it was just her being considerate, but now I saw it as control. "Insurance doesn't cover cosmetic surgeries," I said, my voice colder than I intended. "And even if it did, I'm not ready to think about it." Margaret paused, looking at me with a meaningful expression. "Noah has been so worried about you, Audrey. His career has also been affected a lot since the accident. If you could improve your appearance, it would help both of you so much." I felt like I was being cornered. Whose image, mine or Noah's? The room fell into silence, with only the ticking of the wall clock filling the air. Margaret opened her mouth as if to say something, but then stopped. She stood up, smoothed her dress, and said, "Think about it. We all want the best for Noah." When the door closed, I sat motionless on the cold sofa bed. Margaret's words lingered in my mind like sharp thorns, cutting into every corner of my soul. I had lost my baby, my familiar face, and now I had to face the fact that I was just a burden, an image that needed to be fixed. That night, when everything was shrouded in darkness, I opened my phone and scrolled through old photos. Pictures of me and Noah with bright smiles, sweet moments. I couldn't recognize the woman in the photos anymore. Who was she? Was she the me of the past, or just a shadow I had dreamed up? The phone suddenly vibrated, pulling me out of my tangled thoughts. A message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. "Hello, Audrey. I am William Cresy, the father of the person who caused the accident. I am deeply sorry for what happened and would like to speak with you. Please give me a chance." I stared at the message, my finger hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to dismiss it, to close off everything related to the accident. But another part, the part I couldn't ignore, longed for the truth. Was this the door leading to the answers I had been searching for, or just another dead end in the maze of pain? Finally, I typed a single word, simple but filled with meaning. I didn't know what awaited me, but for the first time in weeks I felt a faint light, a glimmer of hope that I might find myself again among the scattered pieces left behind. William Cresy chose a quiet corner cafe, where the green trees shielded the harsh summer sun. When I arrived, he was already sitting at a corner table, his hands clasped together, his face weathered as if time had etched more than just wrinkles into him. I approached, a light scarf covering half my face. Not to hide the scars, but because I no longer wanted others to see the old part of me. "Audrey, thank you for coming." William stood up, his voice warm but unable to hide his tension. "I also want to hear what you have to say," I replied, sitting down across from him. The coffee in front of him was still steaming, but it seemed he hadn't touched it. William hesitated for a moment, then opened his old leather briefcase, pulling out a folder. "Before we begin, I want you to know that no apology can erase what happened. My son Brian made a serious mistake, and I am here to make it right if I can." I remained silent, my eyes never leaving him. "Then go ahead." William opened the folder and took out a few photos. The images were captured by security cameras, blurry but clear enough to recognize Brian's face. The driver of the car that hit me? But what sent a chill down my spine was the woman sitting next to him. Golden blonde hair, meticulously made-up face, and a pair of eyes that were all too familiar. It was Hannah, Noah's assistant. "Brian wasn't alone the night of the accident," William said, his voice steady as if recounting someone else's story. "Hannah, she was Noah's mistress. They had arranged to meet at the hotel, but Noah found out. He asked Brian to handle it, to scare her into silence. But things went too far." I clenched my hands under the table, my nails digging into my skin, the pain sharp and real. "Handle it? Do you mean Noah asked Brian to do something to Hannah?" "No," William shook his head, his eyes filled with sorrow. "Noah only wanted my son to follow her, to apply pressure. But Brian, he wasn't sober. He had been drinking and mistook the car. Instead of following Hannah, he followed you." Those words pierced through me like needles, each syllable embedding itself deep into my mind. It turned out I was merely the victim of a misguided plan, an unlucky coincidence of the cruelest kind. Not only had I lost my child, my face, but also my trust in the man I once thought would be by my side forever. "Why are you only telling me this now?" My voice trembled, wavering between pain and anger. "I tried to protect my son, but knowing what you've been through, I couldn't stay silent any longer." William pushed the folder toward me. "This is all the evidence I have. If you want to bring this to light, I will support you. And I also want to help you start over." "Start over?" I raised an eyebrow. "Reconstructive surgery," he said. "I know your insurance doesn't cover cosmetic procedures, but I can help, not just to restore your old face, but to create a new face, a new identity if you wish." The idea was like a seed falling onto barren ground in my mind. An opportunity not only to heal the scars on the outside, but also to escape the shadow of the past, to stop living as a problem to be solved in the eyes of Noah and Margaret. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my gaze probing. "Because I don't want anyone else to suffer because of my family's mistakes," William replied, his eyes sincere, making it impossible for me to doubt him. I nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll agree, but I don't want to be Audrey anymore. I want to become someone else, someone Noah and his mother will never recognize." William sighed in relief. "I understand. I will take care of everything. You will become Michael Cresy, my niece. Everything will be prepared meticulously, from identification papers to your backstory." That night I sat in the cold, empty living room, staring at the mirror turned against the wall. I turned it around, daring for the first time to face myself. The scars crisscrossing my face, the dark circles under my eyes, the smile that had long since faded. I no longer recognized myself, and that brought me a strange sense of comfort. "Michael Cresy," I whispered, testing my new name. The name echoed in the empty room like a promise of a different future. No longer weak Audrey, no longer the betrayed and abandoned woman. I would become someone else, stronger, more unpredictable. The plan slowly became clear in my mind. I would re-enter Noah and Margaret's lives, but not as a victim, as the holder of the truth. I would show them what they had lost, and I would do it with a new face, under a new name. I packed only what was necessary, leaving behind the old and meaningless. I texted William, just 2 words. I'm ready. My phone chimed with a new message from Noah. Mom wants to know when you'll be ready to come back. Everyone is hoping for your full recovery. I looked at the screen, not replying. The recovery would take longer than they thought, but not in the way they expected. Because when I returned, they would no longer recognize me. I was not someone who thrived on revenge, but sometimes to start anew, you need to close an old chapter as clearly as possible. The art gallery in the city center was busier than ever. The soft lights illuminated each painting on the walls, each piece telling a wordless story, conveying intense emotions through bold brushstrokes and deep colors. The name of the new artist, Cresy, had sparked curiosity in the art community. No one knew anything about her beyond the paintings filled with pain and betrayal. I stood in the corner, wearing a black fitted dress, my short hair softly curled and my face completely different. The surgery had not only changed my appearance, but also helped me redefine who I was. Cresy was no longer just a fabricated name but had become a real part of me, strong and not easily defeated. Visitors moved around whispering their thoughts to each other. They lingered the longest in front of the centerpiece. A split portrait. One side was a perfect face with a gentle smile while the other was distorted, with chaotic red and black strokes, as if a mask had been torn away to reveal the painful truth within. The painting's title, Two Faces. The artwork is truly remarkable, a familiar voice echoed behind me. I turned around, meeting the eyes of Colton, the gallery owner. He was the first person to believe in my work, the one who helped open the doors to this exhibition. Would you like to come out? Many people are eager to meet Cresy. I'll be right there, I nodded, adjusting my necklace, a confident yet understated gesture. Colton gave me an encouraging smile and walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts. At that very moment, I saw Noah. He was standing in front of the painting, his eyes fixed, his face clearly showing confusion. Beside him was Margaret, dressed in a modest outfit, but the worry in her eyes was unmistakable. They didn't recognize me, just as I had planned. But their presence here confirmed that the trap had been set at just the right moment. Noah, what do you think of this painting? Margaret asked quietly, but I could hear every word. It's familiar, Noah replied, his eyes not leaving the painting. Like a part of our past? Which past? I stepped forward, my voice calm but sharp enough to startle them. The past of lies, of hidden secrets? Noah turned, his eyes wide. Excuse me, who are you? Cresy, I extended my hand, a polite smile on my lips. The artist behind these paintings. Margaret took my hand, her composed expression unable to hide her curiosity. Your work is impressive. It feels like you understand pain very well. That's right, I nodded gently, because I've been through it myself. Noah's gaze studied me, but I knew he couldn't piece it all together. After all, my face had completely changed, leaving no trace of the old Audrey. Actually, I turned to Colton, signaling him to take the microphone. I think now is a good time to share the story behind these paintings. The room gradually fell silent, all eyes focused on me. I stepped forward, the soft lights highlighting my new face, revealing every meticulous detail crafted by the surgeon. Thank you all for attending today's exhibition, I began, my voice steady and strong. These paintings are not just art, they are my truth, the story of a woman who lost everything because of selfishness and betrayal. The atmosphere grew tense. I could feel the unease radiating from Noah and Margaret. They had no idea what was coming. That woman once had a happy family, once carried a small life inside her, I continued, my eyes fixed on Noah. But then an accident took everything away, and the most painful truth is that the accident was not random. It was orchestrated by the very person she trusted the most. I raised my hand and the large screen behind me lit up, displaying the evidence William Cresy had helped me gather. Camera footage of Noah talking to Brian, recorded phone calls, even images of Hannah leaving the hotel with a terrified expression. Noah, do you have anything to explain? I asked, my voice clear and unwavering. Or will you continue denying the truth as you always have? The room fell into a deathly silence. Every eye was on Noah, who could no longer hide his panic. Margaret stepped back, her hands trembling. Noah? Is it true? No. Mom, she's lying, Noah shouted, but his voice had lost its confidence. She just wants to destroy me. That's not what I want. I said, each word like a knife slicing through the mask Noah tried to maintain. I only want the truth to come out, and I am not Michael Cresy. I am Audrey. Margaret's eyes widened, her lips forming silent words. Noah staggered, as if his entire world had collapsed right in front of him. No. No way. I've come back, I whispered, but my voice echoed throughout the room. And this time, I won't let you or anyone else bury the truth. Just then, the police entered and the cold handcuffs quickly locked around Noah's wrists. Noah Jennings, you are under arrest for orchestrating an accident and for other harassment charges. You have the right to remain silent. Margaret collapsed to the floor, but her eyes no longer held the same blind protection as before. She looked at me, and for the first time I saw understanding in her gaze. Audrey? I'm sorry. I didn't respond, only watching as Noah was led away. The murmurs began to rise. But I didn't pay attention. All I felt at that moment was liberation. Not from ruthless revenge, but from the justice that had been served. When the door closed, I took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air fill my lungs. I had not only regained my life, but also rediscovered my true strength. My new life began with the first brushstrokes on a blank canvas in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of an art district. After the stormy exhibition, the name Michael Cresy quickly spread through the art world, but more than fame, what I truly found was freedom. My paintings were no longer just about pain and betrayal, but had gradually transformed into stories of hope, healing, and rebirth. Every morning sunlight filtered through the window, casting a glow on the unfinished paintings. I sat by the easel, my hands stained with colors, but inside I felt lighter than ever. It had been a long time since I truly felt free. No longer burdened by the past, no longer hiding behind masks. Colton, my new companion, had become an indispensable part of my journey to find myself. He was not only the gallery owner who opened doors for me but also a kindred spirit, always by my side when I needed him. He had a gentle yet profound outlook on life, and above all, he never pressured me to share anything until I was ready. Michael, what do you think about the upcoming spring exhibition? Colton asked as we sat on the patio of a small cafe on a warm afternoon. I think I'm ready, I smiled, taking a sip of hot tea. But this time I want to tell a story about beginnings, not old wounds. Colton looked at me, his gaze gentle yet filled with pride. I believe your new story will touch many hearts. We planned the new exhibition together. No more dark and painful paintings. Instead, I painted sunny mornings, fields of sunflowers, and roads stretching under the vast blue sky. Each piece carried the breath of a new life, filled with light and hope. As time passed, I opened up more to Colton. I told him about Audrey, about my past life, about what I had been through and why I became Michael Cresy. He listened without judgment, only holding my hand, giving me the reassurance that no matter who I was or what my past held, the present and future were what truly mattered. One afternoon, as we arranged paintings in the gallery, Colton gently asked, "Have you ever thought about going back to your real name, Audrey?" I stayed silent for a moment, my hand softly touching the painting with the delicate cherry blossom strokes. I used to think I had to leave all of my past behind to start over. But now, I realize that I don't need to deny the past to move forward. Audrey isn't dead. She's just been sleeping, waiting to be awakened. Then let her come back, Colton smiled. I'll always be here, beside both Michael and Audrey. My spring exhibition was more successful than I could have imagined. The paintings of rebirth and happiness spread positivity to everyone. Visitors not only saw the art but also felt my story through each brushstroke. At the end of the exhibition, I stepped onto the stage, my hands still stained with paint but my heart full of love and faith in the future. I once lost everything, I said, my voice no longer trembling. But instead of letting pain consume me, I chose to turn it into the strength to rebuild my life. The best revenge is not to destroy others, but to become stronger and happier than ever. Under the lights I saw radiant faces, eyes filled with empathy and admiration. Colton stood at the front, his smile a testament to the long journey I had endured. As all the gallery lights gradually dimmed, leaving only the gentle glow of the paintings, I felt truly free. Audrey had returned, not as a ghost of the past, but as a more complete, braver version of herself who had learned to love herself more. I stepped outside, walking with Colton down the cobblestone street, where the spring breeze carried the sweet scent of flowers. "What will you paint tomorrow?" he asked, his voice playful. "I'll paint the future," I replied, holding his hand tightly, "and this time it will be truly bright." Audrey's story is a testament to the extraordinary strength of the human spirit when rising from brokenness and pain. Instead of letting the past trap her in darkness, she chose to be reborn, not through bitter revenge, but by building a new life filled with light and hope. Through her journey, Audrey showed us that true healing does not come from destroying others, but from rediscovering self-worth, becoming stronger and more independent than ever before. What do you think of Audrey's powerful and inspiring journey? Share your thoughts on this story in the comments below. Don't forget to hit follow on our channel to keep up with more meaningful and authentic stories about family life.